TAS sports competitions are the focus of the associated schools. These sporting competitions are organised for 8 co-educational independent high schools in Brisbane, Australia. And let me tell you, as high school sports competitions go, this one is definitely worth watching.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of TAS Sport, It's Worth Watching. It's a podcast covering all things that are TAS Sport. So let's kick off this week's episode. I'm Chris and I'm riding solo this week, so rather than bore you too much with me droning on, I'm going to do a quick recap of all of our sports in one podcast. So let's get into our review of last weekend's volleyball games. We'll do a quick dig, set and spike. Our dig will highlight games where most games were hard fought, 2-1 wins. Our set will highlight games where there were a few 2-1 wins and a few 3-0 wins, while our spike will point out where teams have smashed the ball well and come away with wins of 3-0. So what's the dig, set and spike from last weekend's TAS girls volleyball? Here's the serve. And we dig. The seconds competition had a few tight games. Ormiston and Canterbury having close wins against St John's and JPC, with Jack and St Paul's also racking up a couple of wins. Our set is our Year 10 competition where Cannon Hill, Canterbury and St Paul's all won 3-0, but St John's had to work hard to get a 2-1 win over Ormiston. Most of the games that were played in both our junior and senior supplementary competitions were games split between tight matches like Jack 9 blue and Ormiston 9 white, with Ormiston winning that one, and Canterbury 8 navy beating Jack 8 blue 2-1. The rest of the supplementary games saw wins to Jack 10 red, Ormiston 8 blue, Jack 8 red and Jack 8 blue. And we spike. All of our first games were won 3-0 with wins to Cannon Hill, Canterbury, Ormiston and St Paul's. We also saw wins to Canterbury in years 7, 8 and 9 and St Paul's in years 7 and 9 and St Columban's taking out the year 8 game. Unfortunately, all of our other volleyball games were washed out due to the rain and the unsafe nature of the playing courts. Let's move on and see what caught our eye in football. It was good to see all of our football games were played despite the wet weather. What caught my eye in the first competition was Westmac, St Paul's and Ormiston all having reasonably convincing wins. JPC won their game against Canterbury in a fairly close-fought local derby match. In the seconds, St Paul's had a big win, while St John's and JPC rounded out the winners there, with Jack and Westmac sharing a 2-all draw. In Year 10, Westmac and Canterbury won close games against Jack and JPC, while Ormiston and St Columban's won the other 2 games. Jack, JPC, Ormiston and St Paul's all had wins in Year 9, with Cannon Hill and JPC really showing some dominance in their games. In Year 8, Westmac, JPC and St Paul's all had wins, while Ormiston racked up a whopping 16 goals in their game. Finally, in our Year 7 competition, St Paul's had a big win, and then we had a number of winning schools, all with 5 goals to their credit. Jack, Canterbury and Ormiston. Well done. That's our quick recap of last week's football results. Let's have a look at basketball. Here's the throw-in for the fast break. The throw-in to Year 7, 8 and 9 competitions where JPC beat Canterbury in all 3 games, including just a 1-point win in Year 9. Unfortunately, all other Year 7, 8 and 9 matches were washed out. That's really unfortunate in a short season, but when the weather intervenes, you just have to go with what it gives you. As the ball gets passed up to court to Year 10, where Jack, St Columban's and JPC all had big wins, but St John's had to fight hard for their win over Ormiston. We passed the ball into the keyway for a shot by the first and seconds. We saw good wins in the seconds to JPC and St Paul's, but St John's and Westmac both had a real fight on their hands to win their games. And going in for the layup with our first, Cannon Hill, JPC, Ormiston and St Columban's all had good wins. That's our quick recap of last week's results. Now a quick look at what transpired in girls' touch. In touch last weekend, the senior supplementary games were all pretty closely fought out, as were the games in our seconds competition with Westmac, Canterbury, St John's and St Columban's taking out those games. In our firsts, Cannon Hill won in a shortened match against Westmac after an injury stopped play. In other games, Canterbury, Ormiston and St Columban's all had pretty solid wins. Now, we've had a few concerned messages via our Facebook page about the young lady who sustained an injury in the first touch game between Westmac and Cannon Hill. Westmac have noted that she's okay and beginning her recovery from the injury that she sustained. She's been examined and released quite quickly from hospital and actually returned to Westmac on the same morning to cheer on her teammates at the first volleyball match. We all wish her a speedy recovery, and Westmac particularly, but TAS in general, would like to thank all the members of our TAS sports community for their well wishes. Let's move on to our Year 10 competition, where Cannon Hill, JPC, St John's and St Columban's won in a reasonably well-contested age group, while in Year 9, Cannon Hill, Canterbury, Ormiston and St Columban's all had pretty clear wins. Westmac had another close win in Year 8 against Cannon Hill, as was predicted. These games between Cannon Hill and Westmac were very hotly contested all day. In the other games, Canterbury, St John's and St Columban's all had convincing wins, as did St Columban's, Ormiston and Canterbury in Year 7, with Westmac winning another well-contested game in Year 7. Well, that's our quick recap of last week's results. Let's have a quick look at some predictions for next week. Righto, here we go with our Round 3 predictions. And next week, JPC travel to Ormiston, Canterbury host Cannon Hill, Westmac make the trek up to Caboolture to play St Columban's, and St John's utilises their brand new indoor facility to host St Paul's. Prediction number 1. What's my sure thing this week? Well, I'm going to go with Year 9 football, Cannon Hill to win. Prediction number 2. What's my upset of the round? I'm going up to St Columban's there, where I think Westmac will topple the St Columban's team in the seconds basketball. Prediction number 3. What's my best team in the competition so far? Well, this isn't a prediction as such, but the team that looks good across the whole competition is Ormiston's first 5 in basketball. They have a test this week up against the traditionally strong JPC, so we'll see how they go. Prediction number 4. What's the toughest game of the week? I reckon it's going to be Cannon Hill and Canterbury's first volleyball. Prediction number 5. What's the closest age group this week? Seconds touch. I think I can anticipate close matches in all of those games. Prediction 6. What team will score big this week? I think Westmac's seconds football team is going to score some goals this weekend. Prediction 7. What's my round of the week? Well, from the results over the past 2 weeks, this shapes as a weekend where we could see 6 draws take place between Ormiston and JPC in football. We'll see how that goes. Finally, prediction number 8. What's my overtime round this week? I'm going to go with Canterbury and Cannon Hill's volleyball. Those 2 schools have shown really good results so far, and I expect a number of closely fought battles across all those age groups. This could tip us into timing out some volleyball games to determine a few winners. Well, there you go. Those are our fearless predictions for Round 3 coming up. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our podcast for this week. No interview or special guest, but we did get a quick recap of games from last weekend. If you're keen to be involved with TAS Sport, it's worth watching. Contact your Skills Director of Sport and let them know. You could stand in as my offsider for a week, or maybe if you have a particular story to tell, you could be my special interview for that week. Otherwise, you could hit us up on TAS Facebook or Instagram pages and let us know you're keen and maybe something about why we should be chatting to you. Well, that's it from us this week. You've been listening to TAS Sport. It's worth watching. I'm your host, Chris, signing off for this week.